All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully, you had a great lunch. We are super excited to continue on with our the last afternoon of our career fair. I feel kind of sad about that, but we're super pumped because we have a speaker that we're excited about. Josue Cervantes is going to be talking about his career in animation. Um, but before we get to that, I just want to give a few reminders. We will do question and answer time for the last 15 minutes. So we'll save our questions for the end of the presentation, and there will be a Q&A function in Zoom. I see some of you have already found it, and that's where we'll post our questions. Okay. So thank you again, Josue, for joining us. Our students are they're eager and they're pumped about this presentation. So I'm going to give you all the time that you deserve. They don't want to hear from us; they want to hear from you today. So
All
I'm going
right,
to hand the mic off to you.
let's do this. Hi guys, I'm Josue Cervantes. I work for an animated series called American Dad. I'm already promoting it right here on my jacket. They're recently bought by Disney, so we're a Disney Fox kind of show that's premieres on TBS. So I'm gonna go over a typical way I break down a scene from script all the way to color, so you can see what I do as a director, and also within that you'll see all the different aspects that are needed to actually complete a scene, which is in general will complete a complete show. So I'll start off by sharing my screen with you and showing you the script. Let me see. Can everybody see the script and the characters on screen? Hopefully you can. All right, so excuse me. So our show is a script-based show, which means there's a writer that creates a story, and in that story, he gives locations, he gives detail as far as what dialogue is going to be read, and gives an outline of the story. And I as a director will take that and look and read it through, and then produce the visuals of what that will look like on screen. So today's story is about jambalaya. It's called jambalaya. The family is here's a picture of the family. His name is Stan, the father. He works for the CIA, and then we have the mother, Francine, daughter Haley, Steve, and an alien that lives with him that he kind of took from the CIA to live at the house with them, and his name is Roger. And then we have a fish named Klaus. There's other characters that are involved in this scene, but those are the main characters of the show. So this show is about Francine not being able to grow any type of vegetables, or any plant she touches just dies. So she reaches out to get this farmer's almanac, and she grows the best vegetable garden she could. She goes, oh my goodness, it's great. What am I going to do with it now? And Roger, who is always an instigator in the family, says, hey, I'll help you do something with it. I have a perfect thing. I remember I was in Louisiana one time, and I was Mardi Gras, and I found this jambalaya recipe somebody gave me, and eventually Roger takes over everything, and he throws her out of the whole scene. He takes over all her vegetables, and he creates this restaurant out of the house. Okay, that's where we're at. He created a restaurant in the house. He already kicked her out, but she's just mad at him. So now we're in the middle of the scene. Let me go down to where it's at. I think it's page 21. Better find it. Yeah, here we go. So what I do is I get this whole script handed to me, and I go, okay, I read through the whole script. As a director, I have to read through the whole script. It's usually 42 pages long, 44 pages long, and that equals out to like 25 minutes of screen time, and we ship at 22 minutes. So we have to get rid of 3 minutes of all this stuff, but it's all this extra drawings we have to do in order for the creator and the writer to see their jokes playing, how they're gonna, what they can take out, and so they have something to play with all the time. So it's a lot of extra drawings that just get thrown away, but that's the process in working in animation. That's how it goes. I'm gonna go like this so you can see my face a little bit more. Actually, you don't even have to see my face, you're on screen anyway. Anyway, so we're getting to this point of the scene where I go through the script and I say, okay, I'm reading through and I say, it's an establishing shot at the Smith house, front yard, early evening. Okay, cool, I got that. The Bayou porch now has a neon sign that reads Julius Bayou Bistro. A couple enters. So I know there's going to be an establishing shot set up, in front of their house that got turned into this restaurant. There has to be a couple walking to the door. Got that set in my head. I'm already visualizing that in my head. The next thing I'm like, in Interior Smith House Kitchen Continuous, Rogu is another one of Roger's family members with the crazy story of how he came to be anyway. But that's a different story. Rogu stirs a big pot on the stove as Roger races in. So Roger comes in, and at this point is where you as an artist become the actor. You start going, okay, this is how Roger's going to read the line and come in, and Rogu's going to talk to him. I'm already kind of familiar with the character, so I'm going to read through as if I'm thinking in my head. I hardly read it out loud, but I think it. But let's see how it goes. Say, Roger comes in. Rogu, everyone's ready. You haven't played a single bowl of jambalaya. Rogu in the weeds. I'm starting to think that all the restaurant experience in your application was a lie. You could have checked references. You got me there. Well, at least we can count on Julius. Camera adjusts to Julius. We see Julius come into scene. Julius is a little alligator that Roger, in the process of forming the jambalaya recipe, got some frozen shrimp and found Julius frozen in there and brought him back to life. So now he's his friend. So he goes, at least we have Julius. And as he goes, perfect as always. He tries to adjust his hat at that time, and he takes a bite of it, and he goes, oh, whoa, almost got me there. But he's happy about it anyway. And so the line is, whoa. And as soon as Roger, and he goes, and after that he goes, as soon as Rogu is ready with a jambalaya. So Roger says, and as soon as Rogu is ready with a jambalaya, at that same moment, it says Rogu, using super fast speed, fills and stacks 20 bowls of jambalaya. Rogu says, ready. Doesn't even let him finish his dialogue, because I could see that because there's 2 dashes here that Roger doesn't even get to finish. So Roger says, as soon as Rogu's ready, finish with the jambalaya, ready. And then he looks at him and goes, whoa, now I just don't know what to believe, Rogu. And you'll see, he comes to the door and walks off with it to the door with the stacks of jambalaya, and he says, stops at the door, hesitates, and says, showtime. So that's where we're at. Okay, I got that in my head. The next stage I go through is okay, I know that we already saw what the family looks like. I know that I'll need an establishing shot of the house. So I pull up that for my designs. We all have designs already set up at times, and some of the new characters we don't, but in this one we do. And I know that I have a kitchen that I have to deal with somehow. Rogu's going to have to be cooking on the stove. If you can see this, he'll have to be up here on the stove somehow. Roger will have to be standing next to him. We'll have to have a camera roll out and see Julius somehow, and then they have to exit at the door. So I'm going to put a door here and make this the exit or something is the idea. So I have that in mind. And I go, okay. So I go to my thumbnail phase. Thumbnail phase, we work in a thing called Toon Boom, and it sets up, it's like Photoshop, where you can draw things, but it gives it up in a panel format, so you can click through it and see your different types of drawings on top of each other in layers, so we could build upon it. So like what I did is I dropped the establishing shot in, and I just started drawing on top of it. I said, okay, I'm going to kind of put it in this section, but here's what it's going to actually look like. I start drawing it out really quick. Since we didn't have the design of this, I did the design myself of what it's going to look like, so they could reference it later. And that's more of a cleanup part of it. And then I have a person walking in, like it talked about the script, somebody walks in. I made it full of cars, so it looks like it's a busy restaurant, everything's happening there. And then the next scene we have set up where Rogu is, I turned the whole kitchen scene, the whole kitchen design at a different angle. They only give you one establishing of the kitchen drawing for you to look at, but as an artist, you turn it any angle you need to make it work. So I have Rogu sitting on the island, he's cooking something, and these are called thumbs. The reason these are called thumbnails is because back in the day, this is how we used to do stuff. We used to make little thumbnails like this and say, characters back here walking away, cut to the door, he walks out, another character walks in this side and meets another character coming in. They meet in the middle, whatever. Then the next pose, we do quick sketches like this just to get our ideas across of what's happening in the scene. That's what thumbnails used to be back in the day. We kind of have to go a little quicker now since they only give us so much time to draw everything. It's come to a point where they're still kind of rough, but the characters are kind of in their composition sizes a little better so we can get through things a lot quicker, because we have to, on top of this, there's another stage where everything gets cleaned up. So I have Roger there, and I'm saying, okay, Roger's coming in. He says, Rogu, he says this line there, talks to Rogu, you got to hurry up and do this. And Rogu says, I'm in the weeds. All that dialogue's going to take place in basically these 2 drawings. That's my idea. And then after that, he turns to Julius. Why didn't you reveal Julius on the left or on the right of screen right? And then he goes over, he goes, that Julius. He goes, oh, he tried to bite him. And then Rogu quickly runs off screen, comes back in, gets these plates, fills them up, comes back in, and Roger goes, whoa. Now I just don't know what to believe. Move to position 3 as Roger comes to the door. And he stops at the door, cut into the door, and he goes, showtime. And that's my thumb pitch. That's my idea. So in the thumbing process, as a director, everybody hands in their thumbs to me. I look them over and I say, okay, those will work. I'll add my adjustments as needed. That goes to my supervising director. And he looks at everything and goes, I think this would be funny if we add this or that. So whatever you draw in animation, a teacher told me back in the day when I was going to animation, I went to CalArts, and that's a school in Valencia started by Disney. And the teacher said, hey, whatever you do, don't fall in love with your drawings, because you're working for somebody. These drawings are not yours. They're going to change. Everybody has a different idea. They're going to change it. Do not fall in love, because a lot of people do, and they go, that was my favorite drawing. How could they change that? And they get really upset. I have to remind them, this is a job. You're drawing something that's going to get changed. So just remember that. Constructive criticism is everywhere in the animation business, and just accept it, and you'll be fine. So cool. So this is my idea. He seemed to approve it. He gave me some camera adjustments a little bit, I think it was. So we're done with the thumbnail phase. After the thumbnail phase is the next, it's called first draft, which is we start cleaning up the characters. We start actually drawing out in perspective everything that needs to work in the scene. And that's what this looks like. So now I have the establishing of the house. The idea is the lights are on, it's nighttime, there's people outside. It was kind of busy with the cars. I was like, it seems like I wanted more people out there. So I just had the people there and a car in front, a car like in front of the house, blocking them. So it's on a different level. And that car will be basically like in this area. So it kind of leaves more look of the people and not so many cars in the driveway. So I kind of changed it at this stage just to clear up a few things. So I have that. And then we get into the kitchen area, and I'm saying, okay, here's my 3-position camera move I added. Here's the actual drawing of the kitchen all cleaned up with the characters where they need to be. This is called the composition of the scene, which is the establishing of what positions the characters are going to start in and where they're going to end up at, and the other characters where they're going to be also. If I had another position of Rogu running in and out, I know it's going to be within this camera, so I didn't put it. I just put that as a composition scene. And so there's a BG is separated, cameras are separated, and we start having Rogu animating during, that's going to be like in a cycle. So that's going to continue in a rotation cycle as Roger runs in. He goes, Rogu, he says, everyone's ready, but you haven't poured a single bowl of jambalaya. He goes, Rogu in the weeds. And, the same idea. Says, a little bit more acting is involved now. I give Roger some expression on his eyebrows and understanding that he's getting into the dialogue of the scene. He goes, I was starting to think that restaurant experience on your application was a lie. He goes, you could have checked references. He goes, he got me there. Well, at least we have Julius. We reel Julius, comes over to Julius and he goes, he's going to say perfect. Oh, because he says perfect as always as he walks over. He says, perfect as always. He taps, he goes, oh, well. Because and now as soon as Rogu is ready with the jambalaya, and I changed the idea of how Rogu is going to get the stuff. I made Rogu, because the timing was only like 4 seconds when all that needed to take place. So I had him grab the jambalaya, throw it in the air, put the spoon inside, run off screen, come back into scene, and the jambalaya falls into the bowls and settles. And then he turns and sees it. And he goes, wow, now I don't know what to believe. He walks over to the door. Showtime. Cool. And we're done with that scene. That's the cleanup. That cleanup will get handed off. Actually, this cleanup will get handed off to my supervisor also, and the creator and the writer will see it at this time, and they'll add any notes that they feel to add, change dialogue, to suggest different types of ideas that they might want. And my supervisor director would be like, you know, I think he should be like not so happy. Maybe bring that down a little, maybe just one lid instead of two lids. You know, all these changes will come in acting because everybody has a different way of acting. But the notes that did come back for this is they wanted to see a closer shot on Julius, so the audience could see him for the first time all dressed up. I said, okay. And also that changed a few things in the camera positions, which I'll show you in the next stuff that came in. And I think it might have been a dialogue change, but I think that's later. So the next stage after this, that's the cleanup. We'll go to animatic stage, which is we're going to get all these drawings separated, cleaned up, prepared to be made into a film, a short little black and white animated film. So that stage is called animatic. So in the animatic stage, let me see where I'm at here. I separated, this is a breakdown of what the camera looks like in animatic stage. We have the BG, we have, just pretend these are glass plates that are being built on top of each other. We have the BG, we have characters, we have the bowl in front of Rogu, we have Roger on his own layer. So then when the camera sees everything, it like pictures everything through that. So in animatic stage, every character has to be cleaned up in Photoshop, outlined with a magic wand, which makes it just create one outline around the character. And then behind that character, they have to put a white like color, which is called the alpha channel, so that can be block over any type of background that's behind it. So we could see the characters on top of things. That's what the next stage of, they'll take all these drawings, which that stage is called the croppers. That's what they do. They grab all our drawings and create those alpha channels and prepare those for the editors. So that's what that looks like. Oops, I'll just go down to here. So at this stage, I separated it a little bit more. So I have the house with the shadow layer that's going to be, that shadow layer in editing can be made at any level they want once they get it in there. So it has to be separated this way. And then we have the lights that will be we show them what they look like, that they're going to turn all this white once they put it on top. And then I have the characters separated and the registration, how they fit within the scene, because they're behind these wood planks here, but in front of the back wood planks. So they have to be cut out to be dropped right on top. It's a lot of figuring out those things to make it work. And then we have the layers of the car and its own shadow layer. And one of their other notes is they wanted all kinds of plates to be messy inside the room. And we're like, okay, we're adding all that and boxes and stuff. And it looks like they've been working all day long. So it gives more reason for him to say, like, you know, Rogu in the weeds because it's so busy, whatever. So the same setup, everything's there, but there's a camera change because they want a close up on Julius. So it's only a 1:2 here, starting of the scene. Everything's separated, comes in, says his line. We adjust to position 2, and we see Julius. Now we cut into Julius for a single, widen out as Roger walks in and he says his line there. Julius tries to bite him. And I have it a little bit more cleaned up here where he flies out, runs out, comes back in, grabs it, walks out. Showtime. All this gets cleaned up and we go to animatic. And so now I'll show you what the animatic looks like. Let me just for a second. So we're animatic. Animatic, there's still some stuff that gets a little messed up in here every once in a while, like they forgot to put this bowl in front of Rogu, but it's just an indication of what's going on in the scene. So we'll straighten all that before shipping. Let me just show you.
Rogu, everyone's ready and you haven't plated a single bowl of jambalaya?
Rogu in weeds.
I'm starting to think all that restaurant experience on your application was a lie.
You could have checked references.
You got me there. Well, at least we can count on Julius. Perfect, as always. Whoa! And as soon as Rogu is ready with the jambalaya...
Ready.
Now I just don't know what to believe, Rogu. Showtime! Jambalaya!
I'll show you that in color. He has to go through and set these plates on these tables. Oh, it was a crazy scene, but we can see that a little bit later. Okay, so we got through that. Everything's fine in the animatic, and now the animatic is seen by all the writers in the room. They all get together and they get together with the creator and they go, okay, what can we do to make this a little bit? We know we have to get rid of so many minutes of this anyways, but let's see what the jokes are working, which aren't. Let's change what we can now. And there's a whole other group of changes that come. And after all that work, there's still stuff that needs to be adjusted. So that's what this next stage is. I kind of broke this down already, but let me just take this out so I can show you what I mean. Okay. So anytime I have a panel written here, that means they had a change in the scene. So what I did was like, I combined a few things because it made it easier for the editors. Once I spoke to them, they said, hey, can you put the actual white dots onto the black and that'll be on it, and then put the people with their own shadow layer and things like that. So I made some changes to make that work. The writers decided that, hey, we overcompensated on that mess. Let's get rid of half of that mess and just put a little bit of stuff in the back and a little bit of stuff on the left. So all those drawings are out and we have to adjust it. So we adjusted that. Everything else kind of stayed the same. There's some dialogue change here. He says, and Rogu says, you filled out for Rogu, for the resume. He goes, I think all that stuff was a lie. He goes, you filled out for Rogu. And so that's the change of the dialogue. They thought that'd be funnier. I said, okay, cool. No problem. Everything changed except for that the BG had to be adjusted because of that new stuff gone, and everything else stayed the same. In that scene, it was cool. We not hardly had any changes. They loved everything else. Cool. So there's after this is called the lock stage, because the next thing after this is we're going to go into a final sit to get the final result of what everything's going to be. No matter how long that quick time is, it's now going to be reduced to 22 minutes. I think it's 22 seconds. And I sit in there. It used to be called the sweat box back in the day when they did live action stuff, because back in the day it was a tiny room. Everybody sat in. Everybody that worked on the film, the main creators and directors, and they would sit in the room and just stay there until they got the movie locked and ready to go. And no matter how long it took, and sometimes it got hot, so they used to call it the sweat box, So that's what we call the lock on our end. It's the creator of the show, the writer, myself, a couple of production people taking notes, and the editor. And they're just asking for changes. I'm going to the editor. I'm saying, okay, put that on 8, put that on 12. Let's get this through. Put him here, add this pose for that pose. Just make it work. And we do that in the lock stage. So after that, all that gets sent to like 3 more stages. It goes to another stage of notes that we fix after the lock that they decide to change, and the designs start being taken care of for shipping. It goes to the timers. The timers will get all these drawings and put it in a written format for that to be sent to Korea so they can understand what to do in between. And that's what I had drawn on these last few poses over here. It's like this. For us in animation, we go pose to pose. Here in the States, we do pose to pose. We get sent over to Korea for all the in-betweens. So pose to pose is the distance of the position between characters from one to another. Like, let's say I go from here to here, the distance I'll have here. So let me make sure I have that. Like, this is pose to pose. I have one pose here. Let me draw out my thing. I have one here and one here, right? So this is my first pose, and this is my maybe my 5th pose, because I know that Roger, our character Roger, walks on 5 frames per second. In animation in general, it runs at 24 frames per second. So we're moving drawings at 24 frames per second all over. We usually draw drawings on 2s in animation, so it's 24 frames per second, so it's usually like 12 drawings to draw from one position to another if it's taking a second to get there. So in this case, Rogers takes 5 frames to get to this next pose. So I know that they're going to need 5 frames. They might draw Roger on 2s here and 2s on the next one and 1 on the next one. I'm not sure if that'll work. They probably just draw Roger on 5 frames because it's going to be a smoother step for him since he's such a short distance between steps. So it'll be pose 1, and then there'll be poses in between. there'll be poses in between like this. There'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 poses. So they'll do all the in between. One leg will be bent, one leg will be standing, coming across like this. I'll draw it in. Like the first pose, one leg will be bent here, and the first foot's coming in. And the next pose, the foot is now planted, and then the leg is coming in between it. And then the final pose is this foot coming forward, about to come into this final pose, and this foot leaning a little bit forward. So they get that all in between drawn in Korea. Takes quite a while, but once Korea is done with all that, they'll send it back in color, and I'll show you what the color looks like. So comes back in color, and this is what it looks like. We have everything lit up, and I'll just play it through here.
Grogu, everyone's ready and you haven't plated a single bowl of jambalaya?
Grogu in weeds.
I'm starting to think all that restaurant experience on your application was a lie.
You wrote Grogu resume.
You got me there. Well, at least we can count on Julius. Perfect, as always. Whoa! And as soon as Grogu is ready with the jambalaya...
Ready.
Now I just don't know what to believe, Grogu. Showtime! Jambalaya! Jambalaya! If you want something good, eat as much as you can. Jambalaya! Jambalaya! I learned this recipe from a little blind man. And now, it is my...
And that's the scene for you in color. Comes back. At this stage, there's actually another stage. Once it comes back from color, it goes to the retakes department, which will take all this and look at it. The creator will sit down, because it still comes at 22 sent to Korea. We still got to air it at 20. I think it's 21 minutes, maybe 22 minutes, maybe 21s or 20 minutes, just under 21. So they still have to get rid of stuff in here. So they still have to make those decisions. They might change jokes. They might do that. And the retakes department, this is where I end up leaving the show, and my supervising director will take over the show from here, because I'm already on to the next show. But I did go through all color. I make all decisions on design. I do any final fixes that needed before shipping. It's all goes through me before it gets to the stage. So cool. So that's one scene within the show, and we have maybe average of 300 scenes an episode, you know, and I have myself, my AD, I have 2 board artists that work with me as a group of 4 per episode. So I break down that script, give everybody like 10, 11 pages, and then I take the rest. And I usually try to take the more difficult scenes like those that the second one I just showed you, and I did both those scenes just so that it relieves them of doing so much, because there's so much work that needs to get done in drawing. And for those of you that aren't artists, that are just here to see what's going on, there's so many jobs in animation that are non-art they're all production jobs, and we need all those production people to help us get through the show, because I need the coordinators for design, I need coordinators for boarding, I need coordinators for retakes, we need coordinators for the board artists to know what they're doing. Everybody needs, and they have assistants all getting things back and forth to each other. Back in the day, we used to actually run over paper to each other. I started off in production at DreamWorks. While I was at school at Cal Arts, I got a job at DreamWorks, and I was running over scenes of Sinbad over to this, across the whole studio to another section, and come back and just help people get their job done back in the day. But now it's a lot more digital, so it just sent over links digitally. I don't know how long I went, if I went over 30 minutes or not, but that's
that's perfect. Wow, and I'm sure a lot of our students are going to have some questions, but again, I just want to thank you for taking your time to be here. Wow, 300 scenes. You're a very busy person. It means a lot to us, and so we want to go ahead and just open it up. Students, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A, and we'll get to them. Okay, so so our first question is, how long does it take to make one episode?
Let's see. They give us. Let let me try to think out here. They give us a week to thumb, 5 weeks to board, a week to do notes, and animatic gets built another week, and 7, and then we do the lock another week after that. It goes to timing for 2 weeks, or it goes to the timers for maybe 2.5 weeks. So it might take 10. So we're looking at for on my end, it takes me 7. It takes me 10 months, but we don't. This episode I'm working on right here doesn't air till the next year. I'm always working a year ahead. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Takes a while.
I had no idea it took that long. This is so fascinating.
Yeah,
We have so many students and like artists. We have a lot of artist students who really are interested in this field. So this was just really informative.
Yeah, what's
Thank
crazy.
you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Brandon, do you want to hop on the mic? I think I see your hand raised. You can also put questions in the Q&A.
Let me try to allow him to talk. Let me see.
The writers write these jokes a year ahead, and they still have to be relevant the next year, you know? So
That's so true.
when they come back from color, they have to keep the jokes just generalized and relevant. If they get too like specific, you know, it just doesn't play well. You know?
Have you ever worked on 3D animation?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
No,
Or they said 3D animation or movies. That was the follow-up.
yeah, I didn't. Although Sinbad and Spirit both has some 3D elements in it, I never got to work on 3D stuff.
Okay. And then the other question is, what is the salary range for like the field of animation?
Wow, it pays really well. First of all, like a starting salary for like a board artist on the show, if you get hired straight to board on the show, it's like 2,200 a week, right? And then a revisionist, which is, there's different stages. There's a revisionist, which is the first stage. That person will clean up any changes that's needed to be done by notes and stuff from the board artist's work. That revisionist will probably get 1,900 a week. Board artists range from 22 to 25. Directors usually start at 3,000, and then that can go on to, I'm not sure what the ending rate would be. Supervising directors might start at 5,000 or 6,000, you know, and go up. The writers are the ones that get paid the most. So please get into writing, everybody. They get paid like 7,000 a week, you know, something like that. Yeah. Once you get on an episode, and they get residuals for all the episodes that go out. They get a certain bump for money from that. And that's just the tip. I mean, creators of the shows get the most, but they're busy nonstop. There's no, I mean, just looking at what I do, it's busy. Those guys, they don't sleep. They have to be there for everything. So
Another question from one of our students is, what do you like best and what is the most challenging about your job?
I think it's a good question, because there's a lot of things I like about I mean, there's an aspect that I have to teach people every day. When I get a new artist in, a lot of people think they could just jump in and do the work, but you have to constantly learn. So I'm a teacher all the time. I'm teaching all the time. It's like constantly. I like that. I like that when people are able to be taught and accept that and move on and get better as they go. I think I like that aspect the most. But besides that, drawing something that I love to do, it falls into that category while I'm working. But this does turn into work. It does turn into like, oh, okay, I have to finish the scene. I have to do this. I have to finish clerically. I have to take care of all this, put that acting in, think about how I'm going to make this person perform right. So I'm constantly looking in the mirror going, oh, I don't know what I'm acting out stuff in the mirror. And then I'm looking at myself, drawing myself or something. It's just constant work. But in the moments, I find those moments where I can make Rogu disappear really quick and come into scene. And I'm like, that was fun. You know, my animation was fun, figuring out those type of things. So it comes and goes. Like I love teaching, and I love just animating those fun little scenes that pop up. They have me do all the dance stuff, a lot of the dance stuff there. If you look at my earlier shows, I did the Krampus show. There was all kinds of musical stuff in that Christmas show. I did Roger doing some pop locking because back in the day in 1984, I was in the Olympics, so I know how to, you know, pop and stuff like that, all that breakdancing stuff. So they gave me a lot of that stuff to do, and I do that in my episodes all the time.
And then the next question we have is how did you get into animation? And the following question is what education is required? Those two kind of go hand in hand. So
yeah, animation. I didn't really think about animation as far as getting into it. We're already working somewhere else, and a friend that I used to help out in high school with his art, projects and stuff. He told me, dude, I started going to the school. You got to come here. And what are you talking about? I already had 3 kids, already married, working at a job. I had to leave that job, so I went into animation kind of late, but just a change of a career, going, okay, Lord, let's see what you're going to do, and I went for it, and we had to give up that we had to give up so much, and I just went to school for 4 years out in Valencia, working on the weekends. It's so please do all the stuff before you get married, everybody. It's really tough, but the Lord helped me through it, and I got through that, and my career choice was made. I went into animation. I went into a school called Cal Arts, which is like I was explaining earlier, it's a Disney. It was called Chouinard back in the day. Disney started it. It turned into California Institute of the Arts, and they have different programs within there, and they have an animation program. And I got a bachelor's in traditional animation at that school.
okay, any other questions?
Oh, let me just add to that too. I have a lot of people that work for me that at the studio that didn't come from an animation school. They came from graphic design, from live action. They just all had a tendency of knowing how to draw. So you can come from different types of fields and still have an artistic background and still cross over into animation. It's going to take you a little longer, maybe, depending on if you understand all the process that it needs to make something move correctly. And as a director, I teach you that as I go through. Not all, that's just something that me as a director will do, but not all directors do that. So a lot of people expect for you to kind of know what you're doing, but it is possible because I have plenty of people that have done it, that have moved through without going to full school, animation school, to get into the business.
Anyone else want to give people that time? A few more minutes.
I'm curious, maybe you said this, but how long American Dad has been on the air? Because I feel like I used to enjoy watching it, but it was a while back. Now I'm gonna have to get back into it, but I can't, yeah, how long has it been on the air?
We're starting our 18th season this year.
Wow.
And yeah, it's not typical. It's like The Simpsons has 25 or something. We're on 18, and a lot of my friends in the business, they're on an episode or a show for 3 years. It's canceled. They're on a new show for 3 years, maybe 2 years. The next one, another 3 years. I've been fortunate to be on a show that's lasted 18 years. It's a blessing. It's been wonderful, and we're still going. Yeah, I'm starting the next season, April 17th, my next show. I get that's tomorrow. I got a table read tomorrow for my new show, and I gotta hear that tomorrow and get ready for my next show on April 17th.
Looks like we have I think it says, how many years have you been animating and supervising?
Let me see. I've been animating. I started on King of the Hill, so it was a few years before that. Let me see, 18, 20, 25, probably 26 years. Because I started on King of the Hill right out of school. Well, I was already at DreamWorks, and then I left to go to work at King of the Hill. And from there, I came to American Dad. I've been an American Dad ever since. So I've been working quite a bit doing that. The question was, how long have I been animating, and what else?
And supervising.
Oh, supervising. So I started on American Dad in 2004. Is that what it? So 18 years. Of those 18, I started on year 4. So 16 years here. I think I've been directing for the last, wow, can't believe I've been directing that long. The last 12 years.
I think we have time. Okay, so we have another question, and we'll start to wrap it up. What has been your favorite animation project? Good question.
Favorite animation project. I did work for Disney Europe. We did a short for them. I did that freelance as I was working on American Dad, and we did this new show that for the BBC that they picked up, but they never aired, so I never got to do anything with it. But it was really fun because I took that project from beginning to end. I was sat through all the recordings of the actors, told them what they needed to express, and got through the whole process of doing a whole show completion from beginning to end on every level. So that was really fun to do.
All right.
It was called
Well-
Unconventional. That's the name of the show.
Well, thank you again so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge in this field. Like Elizabeth said, we have a lot of students who they're artists, and so we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. We're super excited to share with our students and our families who will watch the recording because for some reason or due to a conflict they couldn't make it. Would you be okay with if like those students who watch the recording, if they had questions, if they sent them through us and we filtered them, if we sent you some follow-up questions, would you be okay with that?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, send it my way. No problem.
Okay, well, thank you again, Josue, and we really appreciate it. To our audience, we have 2 more. We're down to the last 2 of our career fair. 2 more speakers coming up. Check the career fair website for links and times. And so that concludes our presentation today, and we'll see you at the 2 o'clock one. Take care.